Hi everyone, I'm really excited to be joined by Aaron Malloy from Edge Radio this morning. Hi Aaron, thank you so much for joining me inside
Lisa.
Worldwide Awake Business Network. If you're watching this live, please comment below because it helps the algorithms and it helps more people actually see it. If you're watching this as later on, then please come in and comment. I will pin this to the top of the group, and this will also be going up on our WABN YouTube channel. So, Aaron, what I thought I might do to start with, and Aaron has got no idea of these icebreakers, but I think it's always fun for people to get to know you. I know that on your Malloy for Mayor page, you say your tagline, if you like, is transparency, accountability, and integrity. But let's just have a few fun icebreakers to get started. See how quickly. Let's see how quickly you can do them. I'm going to put my timer on.
Okay,
right.
Pressure.
Right. No pressure. The stopwatch is on. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Dogs or cats?
Oh, cats.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
That's a good job with the job you're going for.
Yeah,
tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Oh, total night owl.
PC or Mac?
Oh, PC.
Money or fame?
Neither.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset. Yeah.
Cautious or adventurous?
Adventurous.
Call or text?
Oh, mood depending. Very, very big. All jokes aside, very, very busy. So, and because obviously I work in radio, text is always the best way to get.
Yeah, absolutely. But you do have some really good conversations as well. But yes, it's time is the thing. Truth or dare?
Probably truth.
Truth, love it. Okay, so that was, and admittedly I stopped you, but that was just over 1 minute. So thank you for answering those. I love those questions because I think it gives a really good insight into people, and people like you who are night owls must absolutely hate people like me who are messaging like at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning. But I always think
have a giggle when I wake up and I've got messages from me. I think, does she ever sleep? But yeah, okay. What you're calling morning, I'm calling last night, right?
Thank goodness for technology, because I love the fact that I can pre-record things and have them come up of an evening, because anyone that knows me, even for the personal development awake book club I run, they know that I struggle for our meetings at 7 o'clock at night, like my brain's switched off. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I was really pleasantly surprised to see that you had put yourself up for mayor for one of the local suburbs, local to me anyway, in Wanneroo. I'm in Joondalup, so I won't actually get to vote for you, unfortunately, but I'm sure some people that are watching will. And I had a lot of, you know how you have a lot of mental mind chatter going on. So I had a lot of mind chatter going on. And I was thinking, I really have not paid enough attention to politics. I wasn't brought up in a household where politics were discussed. It is all very new to me, and being part of the Awake movement, it's become something that I've realised that I need to really step up into. I listened to Graham Hood, also known as Hoodie, speak at Freo a couple of weeks ago. And what he said a lot of stuff there that really resonated. But one of the things he said was that we can invoke a lot of change in local council, and people need to go along to their local councils and they need to have a voice. So that was kind of what encouraged me to reach out to you, Aaron, and invite you to come on and share your perspective. So I'm just going to go through and ask you a whole heap of questions, which will open up. And we are streaming live. If anyone has any questions as we're streaming, or if anyone has any questions afterwards, please pop them in. So
I'm big on questions. Like I'll just butt in for a moment before we get started. Honestly, like questions are just so important. The only way that we get anything done, and the only way we get different perspectives and opinions, is like we've got this generation at the moment, or this I don't know, this overreaching sort of narrative that conversation and discourse is a bad thing. We need to talk about things. We need to look at other people's ideas. You need to disagree, because otherwise you're never going to grow as a person. And for a job like mayor or anything in council, if you're not speaking to the people who live in the community, then what are you doing? Because your whole job is to represent them. your whole job is to work for them. So if you're not talking, you're not asking questions. So please ask questions. Pretty
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me find my questions. So the questions are this. Tell us about yourself. Where were you brought up, Aaron? Were you brought up in WA, Perth?
Yeah, Perth boy. Well, born in Port Hedland, actually. Born in Port Hedland just a few years ago. The town's very different now, I'm sure. But yeah, came to Perth as a baby after a big car accident. So yeah, so we'll go deep. So yeah, I literally was in a car accident where I was in a coma for a month. I do want to make very clear that I was 4 months old and I wasn't driving. Okay, so I was being responsible.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
Look, I'm here, so obviously it worked out all right.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring that up is kind of strange, because I was having a conversation with someone just the other day, and they were saying to me, we were talking about that issue, and I never talk about it, right? Just because it just doesn't come up. And this person said to me, "Oh my God, now your life makes so much sense." And as we probably go into further other questions, and probably that would make a lot of sense to people. But yeah, no, look, came down to Perth, raised in a family where mum, dad, brother and sister, you're very nuclear. Looked after and had my nana living with us from when I was 3. So I'm big on family. Simple as that. That's that's the environment I grew up with, and 2 really wonderful parents. So that's but very much a Perth boy. And as I sit here in Wanneroo, I've actually I've done one of the great cardinal sins of Perth. You see, we were in Hillary's, and then we moved south the river to look after my nana. So I actually lived most of my life south the river. So I have crossed the great barbed wire that is, from south to north there with the Swan River rather. So yeah, look, I've been here for a dozen years now. Absolutely love it. And
so where south of the river did you move to?
Initially lived in Como, and then we lived in rural Wellard. So I lived on a little bit of land, so we had some acres down there, and so yeah, I've been the guy out there feeding the chooks and the ducks and the horses and the cows and all of that, and lived that life. So I'm very lucky, sort of got my hands dirty. Yeah.
And Aaron, we have that in common. I was actually brought up in Gosnells and moved from so I lived in a lot of different areas, but primarily that area, and actually moved from Gosnells, so from Canning Vale at the time to Yanchep. So I've done the same thing.
There you go.
When I first really went through Wanneroo properly, it reminded me very much of Gosnells, which is where I was brought up. So yeah, beautiful area. Now
I can see where you're going on that, because of the rural side of it, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very much so. And just behind Gosnells is a suburb called Mallon, and that reminds me a lot of Wanneroo. So I'm living in Joondalup now, not far from the beach, but other than not being that close to the beach, I do really like Wanneroo. What I'd like to ask you is, we have you up as Aaron Edge Radio, and I think that this is so important because you're such a natural at this. Tell us a little bit about your radio journey and where you came from.
Okay, well,
career-wise.
It's funny. Okay, the short version is I fell into radio absolutely by accident. I was working for a company when I think I may have just been freshly just hit 18. And we went to Kalgoorlie to do the mining expo and all of that. And when I got there, my employer had a 7-minute interview booked with 6KG in Kalgoorlie. So we were going to go do that, and I was obviously with him. And in the day before, just a Perth boy going from air conditioning to 42 to air conditioning to 42 degrees, back and forth, he got horrendously sick. So he tried to go do the interview, and about 5 minutes before, he just pulled out and said, can you do it? And look, I knew I'd been working for the business for about 2 weeks at this stage. I'd never been on radio in my life. They sort of stuck me in there, and I did it. And when we left, the PD of the station walked up and said, hey mate, how long you been in the game? How long you been doing radio? And I went, 7 minutes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And it just grew from there. So Radio is a game you kind of go into and then you go out, and it's, you know, a bit transient in that way, and you move around a bit, and which has been brilliant, because I mean I've been able to see a lot of this beautiful, you know, state because of it. Yeah, that's how I got in, and progressively over the years I've worked with different, you know, networks. Obviously the biggest network I would have worked for would have been D&G, which is the Nova Entertainment Group. But I've worked and done bits and pieces just everywhere. As I say, you tend to be like that. And yeah, look, I love it. I absolutely love it. I used to love the anonymity of it. I love the fact that you could go and have a lot of fun on the air, and then you could go down to your local shops and no one knew who you were. That was great. Radio's changed now. Everybody knows who you are. But yeah, with all the visual sort of elements to it, and all the you know, the multi-level you know, media that we've got now. But it's great. I just absolutely love it. And I think why it resonates with me is it gives people an opportunity to connect. Radio connects in a way that TV doesn't, that print media doesn't. You know, you've got the interactive element to it, which is something we're bringing on here at Edge, because obviously we're doing this now with, you know, the internet, and the fact that we can actually have.
Well, tell us about Edge, because a lot of people watching will have no idea what Edge Radio is.
Okay, well, Edge basically was born out of this. Well, actually, I've just got this. Hang on, it's in my size, so it's going to be rather large. I don't know if you can see it, but there you go. This is okay. There we go. Freedom of speech movements. Okay,
love it. I need one of those.
Well, we've got them here for you if you want them. That's for sure. I look, working in radio, and actually this ties in very, very well to the area, to Wanneroo. And I don't want to sit here and be Mr. Negative, right? So I don't want to go down that path. But I'm going to say this. When COVID hit, I went along to 89.7, our local radio station here, which is funded by City of Wanneroo, City of Joondalup, and City of Stirling, and other, obviously, private enterprises and this and that. And because with COVID, everybody instantly, well, certainly I did, became unemployed and couldn't do a thing. I wanted to throw myself into something in the community that, you know, I had the skills with. So I did some work there. What happened there was woken me up very, very broadly and brightly, because I could not believe that this organisation that was selling itself, I actually went and actually became the operations manager there. So I took control of the station. We did wonderful things. We got the ratings up 400%. Which is, we actually got the station in the black for the first time in its 19-year history.
Wow.
It was it was in a very bad way when we got there. It was just sort of surviving from one grant to another kind of thing as a community organisation, and just like amazing people there, like the announcers, the staff behind the scene, just great people. But then what we found, and I could go into great detail, but it would take forever. But what I found is the bottom line here is, that station was so controlled by the Australian Labor Party, it wasn't funny.
Oh,
so, yep, through funding, through influence, through the City of Wanneroo, through its links with the chairperson there, with Tracy Roberts, who was the mayor here in Wanneroo at the time, through our Attorney General here, Quigley, the overreaching interference and political control that I was seeing, I was like, you've got to be kidding. So I stood up against it, and I tried to promote the small businesses, because I figured this, it's a community station, you should be looking after the small businesses, right? The people who are advertising with you, the small community groups. So I was trying to do that. And sort of, I don't know, the big foot came in and told me, no. We rely on all of this money coming from council. We rely on this money coming from government, and they don't want us to. They want only Labor politicians on the air. They don't want anyone from the Liberal Party, or, you know, the Greens, or One Nation, or no mandatory vaccination, or, you know, Federation Party, anybody like that. They just wanted nothing but to push a Labor narrative. So yes, we parted company, and I thought to myself, well, I've got this thing on the side here that I was using, because Edge started out literally as just running out of the bedroom in my house. But I had a couple of young mates who were young and trying to get into radio, couldn't get anything going. It's very hard to get into the game. So I was just quite frankly, had some audio gear, and I was training some young fellas in their early 20s, you know, how to get into radio. So when it all, I mean, came to a head, I guess, at 89.7, and I thought, I'm sorry, I'm not a propaganda guy here. Okay, I'm about truth and honesty here, and big on transparency. Because of that, when we parted company, I went, right, okay, let's go get ourselves some premises and let's take Edge to the next level, and let's actually build a radio station that is great music and entertainment, laughs and all that sort of thing, but it actually looks after us. We have shows that are about, you know, being enlightened, about shows about, you know, mind and body and you know, all sorts of focus and alternative financial structures, all sorts of things. Basically, a station that it's for everyone. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that corporate push narrative of all that negativity.
And how many radio stations are like yours?
None.
Okay, so you're unique. So tell me, so tell me in a nutshell, and then I'll move to the next question. What's unique about Edge Radio, and why should people tune in?
Sure. Okay. What's unique is we will tell grassroots stories. Okay. For argument's sake, I'll give you an example of not too long ago. We had, of course, the Aboriginal Heritage Act here in Western Australia. So that was a nightmare for anyone with more than 1,100 square metres. Really, really terrible for farmers. So what we did is we went down and did a live video broadcast from Wagen. We actually had a town hall there, and we actually invited everybody from around the communities to come on in and be part of that. Now, a little town like Wagen doesn't get a lot of that sort of thing going on. Obviously, you know, your big channels, we've got no interest in that.
Oh, wait there, you've muted. Wait there. I can't hear you. How did that happen? My hands were nowhere near, and neither were yours. And all of a sudden you were muted. That is bizarre.
Oh, look at the censorship go, hey? Oh dear.
All right. So I didn't hear the last 30 seconds. You were talking about Wagen.
Yeah, so we had a great show there at Wagen, as far as we let the people of the town, of all the surrounding areas actually have their voice and be heard. Now, with our video going, you know, certainly, you know, everywhere and all over Australia, and people, you know, taking it in all over the world, I'm told that it actually contributed to Roger Cook changing, you know, his mind on that one and doing his backflip. Now, there's still more to that story. It's going on and on and on. But the reality is, a big station would not have covered that story. There's nothing in it for them, quite frankly. We went out there, we did that, and yeah, we've made a difference, you know. And we want to be we just want to be a voice for everyone. I don't care. The world's changed, where now you seem to only be heard if you've got influence or power or money or whatever. We sit people down on these couches, we have conversations about, you know, the most ground zero sort of things that really matter to people, right? And yet, you know, sometimes we'll talk to everyone from all different backgrounds, but the thing is, we really are very focused on making sure everybody gets a voice. The stories that you won't normally hear, stories that you will not hear in any way, shape or form on your corporate media, you'll hear at Edge.
Okay, love it. So that's why you need to tune into Edge. Aaron, outside of work, how do you like to spend your free time? Have you got any hobbies or activities that you're particularly passionate about? I know if anyone looks at your Facebook page, they can tell that you love a good meal. So you can talk about that. I'm not sure whether you like to cook. I know you like to eat good meals.
Yeah, well, actually, my beautiful partner is the one who loves, you know, she loves eating. Let's be honest. So she's the foodie, but no, I love to cook. So I absolutely love cooking. So for me, that's, you know, just a nice way of expressing yourself and that. But it's funny you said, you know, the hours that you're not working. So I was thinking, that's about 3:15 to about 3:30 in the morning. That's about the spot. No, look, I love to cook. I love food and that sort of thing. But my biggest passions in life are the people I love, quite frankly. They're my absolute center of my universe. I motor racing. I'm an absolute motor racing fanatic. So I'm very lucky. One of my little previous lives, I actually literally was professional rally driver here in Australia. So that was great. Got to have quite the life, enjoying that. So, and that crossed over into radio and all sorts of things with that. So doing all the radio for Rally Australia and all kinds of things. So I'm very passionate about my motorsport, to the point where, two of my wonderful sons have got very motorsport names. So my youngest son is Ayrton, after Ayrton Senna, for those who know. And eldest is Ari, after Ari Button, the famous rally driver. So,
wow.
yeah, I love my motorsport. I love, I love cars, full stop. So, yeah, and
brilliant. Brilliant.
If it's got a motor, I'll give it a go.
Yeah. I can just imagine you in another 30, 40 years' time on your little motorized scooter going around. So
already organised. It's going a Hayabusa motor. So, yep, 1300cc turbo motor. It's going in my Gopher. It's going to be great.
Now, the short version, because I've got a lot of questions to ask you. What inspired you to run for Mayor of Wanneroo? And also, what inspired you to do it with such a short lead-up time? What happened?
All right. Well, the lead-up time is quite frankly me. I can be a bit spontaneous about these things. So there was actually a longer lead-up than it appeared, because so for the last about 3 years, people have been asking me about running for mayor. Last year I didn't, because I thought exactly that. I thought there's just not enough lead-up time. Quite frankly, it costs a lot of money to do so, and I'm not a man of means. So, like, quite frankly, without people assisting me and volunteering that, I couldn't do it. So that's happened. It may appear very sudden, but I've had a lot of people asking me for a very long time. So then this year, I just basically had someone who was saying, "What are you doing? Come on, get it done." So we decided, yeah, okay, we'll go for it. And the reason why, it's funny, there was two things that were the catalyst for this year. Is one was literally those people who were saying it to me, and one particular one who was very animated about it. But the other thing was, of all things, me watching a video of our current council answering a question from the floor. And I watched, and I take into account, I actually know these people. I've interviewed Linda Aiken for Take on Radio a couple of times, right? So I watched, and she's our current mayor. Now, I don't want to sit here and trash people, but I lay the facts out, okay? I watched that video of the questions coming from the floor, and I saw members of that council treat the public with utter disrespect. Like, excuse me, peasants, spoke when you're spoken to kind of attitude, right? And I'm sorry, but you know what? If you're our mayor, you work for us. That's your job. Your pay packet comes from our money. So I was like, jaws on the ground. I just thought, you've got to be kidding. The way they're treating this man. Now, the man that was asking the question, I think, how do I put this? I'm not necessarily a big fan of him. I don't agree with him. I think we've got very different ideals. He likes things like 15-minute cities, and he likes lots and lots of surveillance and things that I'm absolutely dead against, right? But again, I'm all for discourse. So I'm watching these questions, and I'm thinking, you're just treating him like he doesn't matter. Now, even though I don't agree with what he had to say, he had every right to free speech. He had every right to ask those questions. He's paying rates. He's got every right to get answers. And the fact that they were just dismissing him, and there was just this elitism of it. And anyone who knows me knows how I feel about elitism.
So that was the trigger. That was the core.
That was like, okay, boom, I'm sorry.
That was like a red flag to a bull.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
the flag went down, and off I went. So I just went, yep, no, that's it. I'm going to just fill in the paperwork and get straight in there and do it. And look, I realise I'm an absolute rank underdog on this one. Excuse me, because I don't have a massive, bag of money basically behind me. And then some of these candidates are spending horrendous amounts, right? And it's their money, I guess. So let them do whatever they want. But I never wanted to be seen to be buying the position. I think that's just wrong. I think if you're spending that kind of money, like, okay, so what are your intentions? Like, what's firing you? If you're doing that, I don't know, to me, community wouldn't be your focus, right? It would be, this is just my take on it. You know, I see it as a far more selfish thing if you're doing it that way. So, you know, I come in, as I say, as an underdog. I realize that, and a big problem I have, okay, and I can't sort of reaffirm this more, is this. The reality is we have enough people in our awake community, right, who live in the city of Wanneroo, that if every one of those people, excuse me, if they all voted for me, I'm in with an absolute landslide, a landslide. But the problem is most of our awake community won't actually vote, right? And that's because it's not compulsory, right?
Yeah.
Now, and some people have got issues with it, and they say, oh, you know, that they have issues with councils and all of that. Well, here's my kind of answer to that. Okay. Just imagine what we can achieve if we're not just standing there making noise. We're not waving our arms around. We've actually got people in positions where they can make change. Okay. It's no good being an armchair admiral, no good being a keyboard warrior. If you don't act, you won't make change. So if people would, you know, if I could encourage people to vote for me, and if I was in that position as mayor, the good I could do for our community is untold. For a start, like we've been, let's be absolutely honest, but we've been 3 years, we've been treated like the lepers of society to such a degree. Okay. Now I have some awake principles I live by. I have some mainstream principles I live by. But fundamentally, my main way is, you know, I want the best for people, right? Like I'm a person who wakes up in the morning and I genuinely, you know, I want to serve people. That's kind of how I roll. I want to make people's lives better, whether it's telling a silly joke on the radio to make them smile, or it's, you know, getting better parking for them. I don't know, you know, whatever it is, that's kind of how I work. And if we don't get people out there voting, okay, and people just go, oh, well, it's an illegitimate council or this or that, and there's a lot of, you know, politics about it. I get it, and I actually respect your opinion big time on that, okay? But again, if we don't have people in those positions who can make the changes, then we're wasting our time, we're making noise and doing nothing. So I just want everybody to get out there, and even if you don't vote for me, we've got some great candidates in other seats as well, I might add, who are, you know, very much awake and have our way of thinking. Then vote for them.
So how do so one of the questions that's come up when I actually promoted this event, because we actually said why it's important to vote for awake candidates. So a few people in the group have come in and said, fantastic, who are they? How do we know who to vote for? So somebody in our group has said, I'm in the city of Coburn, who should I vote for? Do you have a list, Darren?
No, unfortunately not. I wish I did. And I actually wanted to make a little symbol. So I'm actually working on that as sort of a longer term thing for us, that we can have a little symbol so everybody's aware of, okay, you know, you're one of us. But it hasn't happened. And I think all I would say to everybody is, okay, do your research. There's an email address on every single candidate. Send out some questions, right? And that will very quickly identify who is your awake candidate or not. Okay.
Okay. So what type of questions would you ask them?
Oh, look, I've received so many emails. I feel like I should just grab one and read one. But
well, can you send it? Can you please send over some questions, because I'm the thing about me is I'm extremely pragmatic. So you know, really practical person. So people are asking, so we need to give them the steps, easy steps. So you've suggested to them how they can do that. So why don't we create, or why don't you send me over some copy and paste questions? I'll pop them up in the group, and then people have got no excuse. They can do exactly as you're suggesting.
Well, I'll plagiarize one of the emails that's come my way. I'll do a little cut and paste out of that, keep the person anonymous, obviously, because people's privacy. Actually, there you go. There's a good point. If you want to know straight away if they're an awake candidate or not, ask them about privacy. Ask them about 15-minute cities. Ask them about the surveillance state. Okay, as far as you ask questions about, you know, our data being sold and all of that kind of thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to give people the impression that a local council can change these big things, you know, the farming of data and all of that. But you can do it on a very sort of local level, if you like.
Yeah.
So for argument's sake, here, my business is here in Wangara. There are surveillance cameras everywhere now. It's just ridiculous. Now, okay, they could say, oh, it's there to stop crime. No, it's not. It's absolutely not, right? It's just data collection for sale. Okay, this data is being sold. So if you could ask those questions, that's important. And I think that something that as I say, a local level, we really need to really focus on this, because it's a big issue that we can control from a local level.
So my next question was, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the residents of Wanneroo, and how do you plan to address them if elected? But I think because there's going to be a lot of people watching this that aren't in the vicinity of Wanneroo, but will get a lot of value from what you say, if you'd like to address that question for Wanneroo, but also from a general level, and you've already just addressed the 15-minute city thing. So perhaps in your reply, just explain what a 15-minute city is as well, please, Aaron.
Okay. Yeah, well, look, a 15-minute city is basically a principle that they're trying to push across the earth here, that you'll have everything you need very, very locally, so you won't have to move very far and all that. Now, on a sales and marketing point of view, geez, they've done a good job, because they make it sound so appealing. But it's not. It's very much like, remember when we had COVID and we weren't allowed out of our area and there was all these restrictions, that sort of stuff. The fact of the matter is, unfortunately, when you're dealing with politicians, you've got to read the language really, really, really carefully, okay? Because it's chosen very carefully. And the structure of the sentences and the plausible deniability that's placed in everything that they say. So, and I wish I didn't know this, because I'll tell you right now, life was a lot nicer when I didn't have to hang out with politicians.
When you had the head in the sand, yeah.
Yeah. But you do need to do that. So just look, be aware that the language is basically, it is about control. All right. It's like the push into electric vehicles and that kind of thing. If anyone knows anything, and I know I'm a car man, so I'm going to be biased, but I'm actually pretty down the line on this. The reality is, electric cars are incredibly bad for the environment, incredibly bad. And people who are buying them on the premise that they think they're looking after the environment, you are not. And in fact, right now, you're actually feeding a child labour scourge of the world at the moment with lithium and so forth. So the damage to electric cars, now I'm not saying, oh gee, I'm against electric cars forever. In the current state, it's not a good thing. Long term, it might be, and technology changes, the world changes, right? But when you've got a power grid that can barely keep up right now, can you imagine if we all had to plug our cars in every night? Well, it'd be good for you because you'd be in bed early. But for me, it's not going to be great. But so 15-minute city is very much a control mechanism. As far as things I can do for the people here in Wanneroo, which is my primary focus, right? My number one focus is families. Now, everyone I talk to is suffering financially. We're all under the crunch. It's really, really tough. Now, again, one of the other things that sort of going back when we were talking about what was one of the reasons why I've put myself up for mayor is because, okay, in the middle of COVID, our local mayor voted yes, and so did other councillors, but she had the deciding vote, right, to put up our rates by 4% in the middle of COVID. So you've got unemployed people everywhere. You've got homeless people. Now, homeless is becoming a really big issue right across the state, right across the country, let's face it, right? Now, most of these people are homeless, not like the old days, when homeless was, had a lot to do with drugs, alcohol, domestic violence, mental illness. Obviously, those things are all still big issues. But most of the homeless that I've spoken to now, well, you know what? They haven't got a home because they can't afford one, right? Or there's now the fight, to get a rental is just ridiculous.
Well, you basically have to auction your rentals. So if it says $600 a week, somebody scoots in and offers $750 a week, and you haven't got a chance. And that should be illegal, really.
It should be. Look, the other day, I came out of my local supermarket, the old Farmer Jack's, and there's this guy there with his old puppy dog. So I do like dogs, by the way. I love dogs. Okay, I just haven't got time to have one. Cats are lower, mate. But he's there with his pup. Anyway, we start talking because he's homeless. And we sat and we had a basket of food there. Anyway, and we started talking, and I wanted to know sort of, how he's down in his luck. The short version is that, hey, you know what? This guy has got employment, okay? Steady employment. He's a landscape gardener, right? He can't get a home. So what he's had to do is put his landscape gardening tools in storage. So he's paying for a storage facility that's taking away his tools of trade. So then he's having to just do labourer jobs and all kind of thing just to get money, but he's still steady on the income, right? So that's fine, but he obviously would be more steady if he was doing his trade. But the guy can't get a house. So it's not because he's lazy. It's not because of this or that. Okay, the guy simply can't get a house. And you know, and I walked inside, bought him some bananas. I thought, you know, a bit of potassium's good for you. And then, but he's just a really nice guy. And I thought to myself, like, and then I'm thinking, like, how can I help out here? Like, what can I do? And there are so many things we could be doing. There are so many buildings that aren't being utilised. And I, again, sort of circling back to the whole point of this is about families. Families are the centre of society, the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, right? Strong families make strong communities. That's how I see it. When we've got such a financial crunch going on right now, you can't be putting people's rates up. We need to freeze rates. I can't enforce that and reinforce that enough, okay? We need to freeze rates. Now, does that mean your services are going to go down or something? No, and I'll tell you why. Because I look at the city of Wanneroo here, and the waste of money is off the charts, right? Now, anyone who's got a business, anybody who's just doing their, you know, their books at home, and their budgets, you know, you can lower your costs, okay? You can clean up your costs. And the first things you kind of lose is those luxury items. Now, what I'm kind of seeing at the moment with the council, and I've seen this for far too long, is again, this two-tiered system, this elite kind of system where their lifestyle doesn't seem to be changing a lot. But the people in the suburbs that are struggling more, okay, they're all families, you know, everyday people. They are the ones who are suffering. They're the ones who are losing. So let's, you know what, let's trim the fat. Let's take away some of the rubbish that is the virtue signaling. Virtue signaling costs us so much money, so much money. These ceremonies and so forth that just are, generally speaking, quite condescending. So all of that going on, if we get rid of that, you can actually freeze rates. That has a real practical way of actually putting more money in the pockets of everyday Australians here, okay? And therefore takes the pressure off the family and all that thing. I also really, really, really want to encourage our council to be shopping locally, okay? Like, come on. If you live in Wanneroo, you should be not, I mean, you can't do it everything, obviously, but, you know, you should be shopping in Wanneroo, okay? I want to, if you go into your local shops, okay, and I'm not saying I don't ever go to the big multinationals, of course I do, right? But I ultimately try and shop at a local shop or a small shop because I want to know that the money that I'm putting across the counter is putting the little girl into netball or footy or whatever, or the young kid into hockey, whatever, right? It's mums and dad level. I'm not putting a third story on CEO's house, right? So that's a practical thing. Now, our current mayor, I mean, I was looking at her posters the other day, and on our posters we have to have, on the cornflakes, we actually have to have where it's printed. Hers are printed in Canning Vale. Right. Canning Vale. Now, nothing wrong with Canning Vale, good place if you live there. But if you're the mayor, shouldn't you be spending your money, right, on people here in Wanneroo? I mean, it was just a no-brainer for me. I went and I used a printer up the road here in Wangarrick, great people. And quite frankly, they did such a wonderful job. I'm using them again when I need them for other things. And it started a business relationship, you know? And that's the good thing because, again, it started a business relationship. Yeah, I know I'm going to be dealing with them. They've asked me, like, we're going to sort of hook each other up with other local businesses. Simple. So, yeah, there are a couple of practical elements that would help immediately. Yeah.
Well, that might lead on to my next question. Transparency and accountability in local government are essential. How will you, Aaron, ensure open and accessible communication between the city's administration and its residents?
I'm going to do something very, very un-Australian. I'm going to be a big old dobber, right?
You should have a T-shirt that says "Dobbing is backward." Dobber, mate.
Dobbing a mate.
Dobbing a mate.
That's something I can't stand. I don't like that. But no, I mean it. You know, I'm being jovial about it. But the reality is, the transparency is this: that we need to use, and we've got all this fantastic modern technology to be able to do it. Look what we're doing right now. Okay, Now, there is absolutely no reason why we can't use modern tech to include all the public. If they've got access to watch meetings, I know there's a certain amount of that to this extent, but not just the meetings. If you're watching a council meeting, right? Okay, look, go get some paint and watch that dry, because it's far more exciting. Okay, what I'm getting at is no one watches them because it's just dull and it's process and whatever. But I want to actually publish what people are doing in a short, concise way, kind of like a little fact sheet of, you know, okay, so ABC, she voted for this, you know, this person voted for this, da 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 da. Because then that person's got accountability. Because ultimately, this is the thing we've got to always keep coming back to. Life is very basic when you cut all the tinsel, you know, out of it and all the shiny stuff. This is about people. And if you're going to employ someone, and that's what you are as a councillor or mayor, you're being employed to represent the community, then the community gets to talk. And I'll give you a great example of this. There's been, for 8 years, there's been a caravan park up here that was closed up, and you know, what to do. Now, recently, even though the entire community got together and the massive overwhelming majority don't want this area developed in a private sort of way, in a private enterprise, the mayor stepped in and used her double vote to overrule what the public want, and they're going to put a glamping area there. Okay, so
Wow.
for fancy camping. Now, I'm not against glamping. I'm certainly not against business. I think, again, it's really good for the area. I want to make the area a real destination. So I want to make Wanneroo a destination for sport, for entertainment, all of that. And we've got great facilities, Wanneroo Raceway, all sorts of things that we could be using so much more, right? And look at our beaches. I mean, come on, right? Why wouldn't we? So I'm not against the glamping thing. But we got a lot of beach. Why would you put this new development, private development, that's got some pretty damn strong links to the Liberal Party, just saying, you know, so is our mayor, you know, having run, what, 4 times for them in state and federal politics. That's now it's going ahead, and they're going to put it there where people don't want it. Where you could have put it, you know, a kilometre down the road, 500 metres down the road, whatever, and you could have developed that area, right, for the locals. You could have done something very positive with it. You could have respected their opinion and the fact that they are, as I say, the ones who you're genuinely working for.
What does the double vote mean?
So if they're basically, if the votes are even and they can't be split, effectively the mayor makes the deciding vote. So her vote
Gotcha. Okay.
becomes clear.
All right. So it was very close then, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. But it shouldn't have been close. But it shouldn't have been close, because this is something the community went really hard on, and for 8 years said, we don't want. And if you truly represent the community, you're going to go with sometimes the community is going to be wrong. Don't get me wrong. Okay, that's going to happen. There could be other reasons. Look, there's $500,000 worth of rates which would come in from there, which would be a benefit, right? But the $500,000 of rates would come in if it was 500 metres down the road too. Okay, and also, you know, that other area you might want to develop, and you could put some, you know, infrastructure there and some shops there and whatever, and you could make another little hub there. But so why deliberately just disrespect the people who live there?
You mentioned before about the candidate that the councillors and the mayor are employed by the council. So what type of because it's not a salary as such, is it? So I'm guessing there's some tax breaks for that as well. What type of money are we talking?
Look, to be honest with you, I don't know the exact figures. It's not really my priority. I know that, look, and it ranges on all different councils.
Oh, does it? Okay.
It does, yeah, absolutely. So I'm not, I like, for argument's sake, the base salary, if you like, for the mayor is, I believe, $145,000 a year. Yeah, okay. I know some of the councillors are on $25,000, right? I also actually want to, I'm going to do something strange here. I'm actually going to defend these councillors to a degree, because I think people have got to realise that, yes, you're right, tax breaks and all that kind of thing, there's some advantages to it. But my word, there's an awful lot of work for $25,000 a year. An awful lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
and also an awful lot of negativity. You know, you do get attacked a lot. You have to have a very thick skin for this. And you know, maybe that could be, maybe people need to temper that a little bit. So I don't think, generally speaking, people don't get into council for the money. All right.
Yeah.
What the other side of that, and this is my personal opinion, and I think a lot of people share this thought. Our councils have become the green rooms, the waiting rooms to move into federal or state parliament. Okay, so people go into their local councils, build up their profiles, and then they move on. Okay, and that's exactly what happened with Tracy Roberts. She built up her profile. Labor came around, even though, by the way, you know, Tracy Roberts was very much a very firm Liberal supporter for many, many years. Her husband's Liberal. She's had a lot to do with the Liberal Party, but suddenly, you know, when the Labor Party came with the cash, she suddenly became a Labor candidate. Very interesting. Now, I don't think that, to me, that just reeks of a lack of integrity. Okay, you're giving up your values there. So I'm so sick and tired of this waiting room mentality, and that's what most people, in my opinion, most people get in council to do that. Some have got great ideas and are very clear about it.
Yeah.
Now, I'll actually throw myself in on that one. So a lot of people would say to me, yeah, but hang on, Aaron, you've run for federal parliament, right? Okay. And yes, I did. Okay. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that I did that. And I did that because I had particular causes that I wanted to make public, and I needed a public forum to make that happen. And to be frank, you know, that is a very good way of utilising the system to you know, bring an eye to it. And something I'm very, very passionate about is domestic violence and male victims of domestic violence, which is something that is absolutely scoffed at and laughed at. I'm very passionate about actually building. So I have an agenda. I want to, and this has got nothing to do with council. Obviously, if it was in council, that'd be great. But something that I've been intent to build over the last few years is I actually wanted to build the Russell Goodrick Centre. Russell was a great friend of mine. For those who, you know, got in Perth for a long time and remember, Russell was the guy from Channel 9, the old Channel 9 newsreader.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, Russell told me, that one.
Yeah,
there they go.
Yeah.
Great buddy of mine, and he passed away not that long ago. And it's just a wonderful human being who was just trying very, very hard to build a place where male victims of domestic violence, or men particularly, could go to be heard. Now, that's not an anti-woman thing in any way, shape, or form. Quite frankly, everybody needs to be heard. Everybody needs to be looked after. But just as you've got female, you know, centres for you know, women,
there's a lot of support for females.
Yeah, and there's none for men, and there genuinely is none for men. So we have one single refuge in this entire country for male victims of domestic violence. It's run by the Islamic Women's Association of New South Wales. So if you are in that situation, that's the only place to go. So where I'm going at there is the fundamental reason that I ran for Parliament was I wanted to give a voice to those people who are going through that. And it's not just the men, it's a lot of women as well who are going through it. And the primary reason is the children, because children's lives are being destroyed at an unbelievable rate. And, you know, I judge society on the way we treat our most vulnerable, right? And right now we treat our children really, really poorly. So that's why I did that, and I won't stop.
Wow. I'm just realizing we're nearly to the end of our hour, and we could basically flesh out so many different subjects: the homelessness and the men and the children and the families. And so as people are listening, I'm sure they're going to be inspired to want to do more. So they can follow you on your Facebook page. Yep. They can also start listening into Edge Radio. Is there any other movements that you have going on that you'd like to communicate to anyone listening? What else do you want people to know?
Look, it's constantly evolving, to be honest with you. Look, as I say, we established Edge as a platform for people to have a voice. So quite frankly, if you've got something you want to bring forward, you know, there might be an issue that we don't know about, then it's a great way to bring it to a public sphere, I guess. So I'd encourage you very much to do that. If you've got any questions about Wanneroo or you know, what I could bring or anything, quite frankly, about the city, yeah, look, just email me at MALLOY@outlook.com or go to the Facebook page. It's another great way of doing it. I actually really want to answer your questions. I am getting a lot, so please be patient with me because it's taking a while. And I kind of type like Homer Simpson, so it takes a while. But I really want to answer people's questions, so that's important.
Now, is Aaron Malloy or Edge Radio needing any more volunteer assistance?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, that is something that probably didn't make clear that we are staffed by volunteers. This is very much a community-based sort of organisation. So yeah, look, right now we're always looking for presenters. So if you would like to get into radio, we can definitely help you there, and I'm very happy to mentor you and teach you the tricks of the trade. Obviously, also because we do a lot of video stuff and a lot of that kind of thing, that would be very helpful if people who want to do video editing. That's great. Desperately in need of sales staff because you've got to keep the lights on. So that would be fantastic if you have any experience in advertising sales. Yeah, and want to come, join us. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, look, across the board, we're looking for volunteers to help make all sorts of things happen and get bigger and bigger. I'm trying to build a media entity that has those things we were talking about: transparency, accountability, integrity, right? So look, we've learned over the last 3 years, and some of us over a longer period, just let's be frank, you cannot trust the corporate media anymore. They're just for sale, right? And over the last 2 of the last 3 years, so many of the corporate media paid no tax if they signed on and if they actually played all of the particular public service announcements over the last couple of years, which we've now been shown and been proven to be untrue.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, so for us, we just want to keep doing what we're doing, building, getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Do you have a volunteer coordinator at the moment?
Oh, you're kind of looking at the coordinator, the announcer, the tea lady.
Okay, so that may be a person that you're looking for as a man or woman, possibly retired. I say retired because if you've got somebody that's financially secure, then they're going, they might have had this fantastic position in their last life. I'm just putting it out there because I believe in the law of attraction. They may have all those skills and be fantastic at leading a group of people and be able to bring a whole lot of volunteers together to be able to run this. Because if you have 20 people contact you, Aaron, in reality, you're not going to be able to coordinate them all to be able to get.
This is not an Edge thing, but I often mention this, right? Because obviously my role is as MC for the Freedom Rallies. I once woke up the morning after a Freedom Rally, and I had 3,300 private messages in 20 hours. And that is an absolutely overwhelming amount of people who needed help and felt like they needed support and had something to say. And I think that it's frightening that there's so many people out there who can't be heard and haven't got that opportunity. So by building Edge, that's one thing we're doing. Simple as that. And it will always be very much fundamentally about the community. Other stuff that we're doing, which is not strictly on that front, but again, to me, it's a very important. We run a lot of, in fact, we run more local West Australian music than any other station. So for argument's sake, on Friday nights from 6 p.m, we run a show called West Coast Cool. So that has literally from 6 till about almost 2 o'clock in the morning, depends on how enthusiastic I am, about over 7 hours of local West Australian talent, right, being heard. And these young musicians don't get heard, don't get played on mainstream, and they're very, very talented people. So I just basically just trying to make effectively a hub, a place that everybody can come to build our West Australian community.
That's fantastic. You've got so much to offer. So reach out to Aaron if any of this has resonated with you, so that this vision can become a reality, because it takes people, and people need to step up. We have our next Awake B2B networking event coming up on the 14th of November, and
Yep.
Aaron is one of our guest speakers, and the topic is leadership without title, because it's something that I'm very, very passionate about, is that people step into their power. And I used to work in aged care, and it really resonated with me that when we get to the end of our life, we don't want to have any regrets. It doesn't matter how much we fail at, but we've got to give things a go. So I believe that if you feel something in your heart, then it's something that you're supposed to be doing in this lifetime. So there's a lot of people out there to be able to assist you to do that. Just before I hand back over to you to close, Aaron, I just want to ask from a practical perspective. So this is what I received in the mail. I don't know how well it's actually coming up on the camera there. No, it's probably not coming up at all.
There you go.
It's my voting thing, which everybody would have got. Some people say that you need to use a black pen. Is there anything that we need to know about this?
Look, a black pen is preferable. Look, you could use a pencil and that sort of thing, for the security of your own vote. I personally am a big believer in a black pen.
Okay, all right, great. That was my question there. And this is being recorded on the 4th of October 2023, and we have got our yes/no vote coming up, our no vote coming up very shortly as well.
Well, could I butt in on that one, please?
Yeah, sure.
Look, again, I very much care about people's freedom of choice there, right? But ultimately, this is a really simple thing. I'm very happy to say how I'm voting. I am voting no, because quite frankly, I could not be more against racism than anyone. I'm actually mixed race myself. A lot of people don't know that, but I am. And racism is the most ridiculous, redundant thing on the face of the earth. So why in the world are we having a referendum to actually entrench racism within our constitution, the rule book of our country? It's just ridiculous. If you want, if you want to make lives better for those who are, doing it tough, there are far more practical, sensible ways of doing that. And again, we get back to the accountability. There is already $40 billion a year being spent. Let's make sure it's going to those who actually need it.
All right, wonderful. Thank you again so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your passion and your experience. I've certainly learned a lot, and I hope everyone watching has as well.
Awesome.